Seth Rogen is a Canadian actor, comedian, writer, producer, and director. He began his career performing stand-up comedy during his teenage years. While still living in his hometown Vancouver, he landed a supporting role in Judd Apatow's series Freaks and Geeks. Shortly after he moved to Los Angeles for his role, Freaks and Geeks was officially cancelled after one season due to low viewership. Rogen later got a part on sitcom Undeclared, which also hired him as a writer.
After landing his job as a staff writer on the final season of The Ollie G Show, Apatow guided him toward a film career. As a staff writer, he was nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Writing for a Variety Series. Rogen made his first movie appearance in Donnie Darko with a minor role in 2001. Rogen was cast in a supporting role and credited as a co-producer in Apatow's directorial debut, The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Universal Pictures subsequently cast him as the lead in Apatow's films Knocked Up and Funny People. Rogen co-starred as Steve Wozniak in Universal's Steve Jobs biopic in 2015. In 2016, he developed the AMC television series Preacher with his writing partner Evan Goldberg and Sam Catlin. He also serves as a writer, executive producer, and director with Goldberg.
Rogen and Goldberg co-wrote the films Superbad, Pineapple Express, The Green Hornet, This Is the End, and directed both This Is the End and The Interview, all of which Rogen starred in. For his activity in The Disaster Artist, he was nominated for a Golden Globe Award. He has also done voice work for the films Horton Hears a Who, the Kung Fu Panda film series, The Spiderwick Chronicles, Monsters vs. Aliens, Paul, Sausage Party, and Pumbaa in the 2019 remake of The Lion King.
Seth Rogen was born on April 15, 1982 in Vancouver, British Columbia, to a Jewish family. His mother, Sandy, is a social worker, and his American father, Mark Rogen, worked for nonprofit organizations and as an assistant director of the Workmen's Circle Jewish fraternal organization. Of his dual citizenship, Rogen has stated, "I definitely associate with being Canadian much more than being American because he grew up in Canada." He has described his parents, who met on kibbutz, Beit Alpha in Israel, as radical Jewish socialists. Rogen has an older sister named Danya, and attended Vancouver Talmud Torah Elementary School and Point Grey Secondary School, incorporating many of his classmates into his writing. He was also known for the stand-up comedy he performed at Camp Miriam, a Habanim Dror camp. Rogen was raised Jewish.
As a child, Rogen did not want to pursue any career other than comedy, stating, "As soon as I realized you could be funny as a job, that was the job I wanted." He got his start in show business at age 12 after enrolling in a comedy workshop taught by Mark Pooley. His early comedy routines involved jokes about his bar mitzvah, his grandparents, and his camp counselors. During his teenage years, he would perform stand-up comedy routines at places like bar mitzvahs and small parties, later shifting to bars. A mohel paid him to write jokes. At the age of 13, he co-wrote a rough draft of Superbad with childhood friend Evan Goldberg, whom he had met at bar mitzvah classes. Based on their teenage experiences, Rogen and Goldberg spent the rest of their time in high school polishing the script. They initially worried that American Pie had beaten them to the idea for the movie, but they decided that the film managed to totally avoid all honest interaction between characters. Which is what we're going for.
His mother was supportive of his comic endeavors and would often drive him to stand-up gigs at the comedy club Yuck Yucks. With his deadpan humor, he placed second in the Vancouver Amateur Comedy Contest at 16 years old. Also, when Rogen was 16, his father lost his job and his mother quit hers, forcing them to put their house up for sale and relocate to a significantly smaller apartment. Around this time, he landed a role on Judd Apatow's television show Freaks and Geeks after attending a local casting call. Rogen dropped out of high school, began working for Apatow, and relocated with his family to Los Angeles. Rogen paid the bills and had become the main wage earner at just 16.
Rogen's acting debut was in Apatow's Freaks and Geeks, a cult hit series first released in 1999 as Ken Miller, a cynical, a civic freak. Revolving around a group of teenagers' lives, Freaks and Geeks first aired in 1999. Although well-reviewed, the show was NBC's lowest-viewed program and was cancelled after one season due to poor ratings. Impressed with Rogen's improvisational skills, Apatow then chose him as the lead in another of his shows, Undeclared. Rogen was originally set to play a fairly popular but nerdy college freshman, but the network did not think he was leading male material. Apatow opted not to go along with the show. Rogen also served as a staff writer to the short-lived production.
Following the show's cancellation in 2002, Rogen did not get many auditions, which was not upsetting to him as he always thought he would achieve better success as a writer. He would soon be a part of Apatow's Frat Pack, a close-knit group that includes Steve Carell and Paul Rudd. Of the awkwardness of a grown man spending so much time with a teenage Rogen, Apatow said, "I'm such a comedy fan that, even though he's 16, I know I'm hanging out with one of the guys who's going to be one of the great comics." Around this time, Apatow would come up with odd requests for Rogen and Goldberg, such as turn an idea of his into a movie in 10 days and come up with 101-page ideas for films. Regarding Apatow's professional effect on Rogen, the actor said in 2009, "Obviously, I can't stress how important Judd's been to my career."
Rogen had roles in Donnie Darko and Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy. A big career point for him was becoming a staff writer for Sacha Baron Cohen's last season of The Ollie G Show in 2004. Along with the show's other writers, Rogen received a Primetime Emmy Award nomination. He became familiar to audiences as one of the main character's co-workers in Apatow's well-reviewed buddy comedy directorial debut feature The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Rogen also co-produced it and improvised all his dialogue. Hadn't done any screen work that indicated he could carry as memorable and convincing a performance as he does with the character Kel, MTV's John Constantine wrote. The Boston Globe reviewer Wesley Morris wrote that Rogen, along with co-stars Rudd and Romany Malco, were each hilarious in their own right, and Orlando Sentinel's Roger Moore believed that Rogen had his moments in the film, whereas Moira MacDonald of the Seattle Times said the actor was drooly deadpan. He followed this with a small role in You, Me, and Dupree, a critically panned comedy featuring Matt Dillon, Kate Hudson, and Owen Wilson.
His breakthrough came when Universal Studios greenlit him for the lead in yet another Apatow production, Knocked Up, a romantic comedy that follows the repercussions of a drunken one-night stand between his slacker character and Katherine Heigl's just-promoted media personality that results in an unintended pregnancy. Upon completing The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Apatow had approached Rogen about potential starring roles, but the actor suggested many high-concept science fiction ideas. After Apatow insisted that he would work better in real-life situations, the two agreed on the accidental pregnancy concept of this production. Rogen called shooting sex scenes with Heigl nerve-wracking and found comfort with the supporting cast since, even though he played a lead, the focus was not all on him. Made on a $30 million budget and released on June 1, Knocked Up was a critical and commercial box office hit, garnering an approval rating of 90% on review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes and grossing $219 million. Rogen also received favorable reviews. Later that year he played a supporting part as an irresponsible police officer in Superbad, which he had written with his writing partner and was co-produced by Apatow. Michael Cera and Jonah Hill originate the main roles, two teenage best friends whose party plans go wrong, based on them. The film and their writing was praised, with critics finding it to be very authentic. It topped the US box office for 2 weeks in a row. He made a vocal cameo appearance in the animated film Shrek the Third, also released in 2007. Rogen hosted Saturday Night Live in October 2007.
Rogen's projects in 2008 included Jimmy Awards' Horton Hears a Who, an animated film based on the Dr. Seuss book, in which Rogen voiced Morton the Mouse, and the fantasy film The Spiderwick Chronicles, in which he voiced a hobgoblin. Rogen additionally co-wrote Drill Bit Taylor, also produced by Apatow and starring Owen Wilson as the homeless titular character. He based the screenplay on a 70-page script done by John Hughes. The movie was panned by critics who thought its plot, a grown man becoming 3 kids' bodyguard and beating up their bullies, had no focus and was drawn out. If Superbad were remade as a gimmicky Nickelodeon movie, It would probably look something like Drillbit Taylor Josh Bell wrote in the Las Vegas Weekly. He again lent his voice to another animated movie, this time Kung Fu Panda, with Jack Black and Angelina Jolie. It did exceptionally well in theaters, making more than $630 million. Rogen made a cameo appearance in the comedy Step Brothers, released in July. Rogen, Goldberg, and Apatow were behind the stoner action comedy Pineapple Express directed by David Gordon Green at Columbia Pictures. Apatow produced it while Rogen and Goldberg wrote the script. Rogen was chosen to play the film's protagonist, a 25-year-old who accidentally witnesses a murder while delivering a subpoena. James Franco was cast as his hippie pot dealer that he goes on the run with. When asked about its inspiration, Rogen said he wrote what he knew. Pineapple Express was released to theaters in August and made $101 million in ticket sales against its $27 million production budget. Movie critics lauded it, appreciating their performances and its humor.
In April 2008, Empire reported Rogen and Goldberg would write an episode for the animated television series The Simpsons. He also voiced a character in the episode, entitled Homer the Whopper, which opened the 21st season. Kevin Smith's romantic comedy Zack and Miri Make a Porno rounded out 2008 for the actor. He and Elizabeth Banks portrayed the title roles, Pennsylvania roommates who try to make some extra cash by making an adult film together. After having difficulty trying to secure an R rating, Rogen commented to MTV, "It's a really filthy movie," but complained, "It's really crazy to me that Hostel is fine, with people gouging their eyes out and shit like that. But you can't show two people having sex, that's too much." The picture was distributed on Halloween by the Weinstein Company and disappointed at the box office. Along with Reese Witherspoon, he voiced a character in the animated science fiction Monsters vs. Aliens, which did well commercially, with a total of $381.5 million. He then starred in the Jody Hill-directed mall cop comedy Observe and Report, in which he portrayed bipolar mall security guard Ronnie Barnhart. The film opened in theaters on April 10. Critics noted a departure in Rogen's acting style from playing laid-back roles to playing a more sadistic character. Wesley Morris from the Boston Globe opined that often with Rogen, his vulnerability makes his coarseness safe. Ronnie is something altogether new for Rogen. Vulnerability never arrives. He's shameless. Later in 2009, Rogen starred in Apatow's third directorial feature, Funny People, with Adam Sandler. Rogen played a young, inexperienced comic, while Sandler played a mentor of sorts to his character. The film had more dramatic elements in it than Apatow's previous efforts. Funny People was a commercial failure, coming short of its $75 million budget, despite positive reviews. Rogen hosted Saturday Night Live again in 2009, where the music video for the Lonely Island song Like a Boss, in which he starred, premiered.
After years of development, a feature film adaptation of The Green Hornet was handled by Rogen and Goldberg, with a theatrical release in January 2011. Rogen chose to do a reimagining of the title character. He was executive producer of the movie and also cast himself as the main character. Rogen later admitted to having been overwhelmed by handling its $120 million budget. "It's insane. But it's not so much the specific amount of money that's stressful, it's all the things that go along with making a movie of that size." The actor also went on a strict weight loss diet to play the slim crime fighter. The Green Hornet was a critical disappointment. Adam Graham of the Detroit News called it a big, sloppy, loud, grating mess of a movie, and the Arizona Republic's Bill Gutekunst found its story to have fallen apart. Nonetheless, it still opened at number 1 at the box office, making $33 million in its opening weekend before going on to gross more than $225 million. In 2011, Rogen and Evan Goldberg founded the production company Point Grey Pictures, named after Point Grey Secondary School, which they both attended.
Rogen provided the voice and motion capture for the title character, a gray alien, in the science fiction comedy Paul. The film also starred Simon Pegg and Nick Frost as a pair of geeks who help Paul escape from FBI agents. He reprised his voice role in Kung Fu Panda 2, as well as produced and took a supporting role in Jonathan Levine's 50/50ths. The dramedy about cancer was based on an autobiographical script by screenwriter Will Reiser, and was released in September 2011. The drama Take This Waltz, his fourth film of 2011, featured Rogen as a man whose wife explores a new relationship with another man. From 2011 to 2015, Rogen played Dirty Randy, a librarian and pornographer, in the sitcom The League, in addition to writing 2 episodes. Rogen hosted the 27th Independent Spirit Awards in February 2012, and the road movie The Guilt Trip, also starring Barbra Streisand, was released in cinemas that December. The film was about an inventor who invites his mother on a road trip as he attempts to sell his new product while also reuniting her with a lost love.
In 2013, Rogen along with screenwriting collaborator Evan Goldberg made their directorial debut with This Is the End, a comedy featuring Rogen, Jay Baruchel, James Franco, Jonah Hill, Craig Robinson, and Danny McBride playing fictional versions of themselves facing a global apocalypse. The film received positive reviews and was number 2 in the box office on its opening weekend. Rogen recurred on the revived 4th season of the comedy series Arrested Development in May 2013, playing a young George Bluth, Sr. in several flashback scenes. He co-wrote the foreword for the 2014 book Console Wars, Sega, Nintendo, and the Battle That Defined a Generation by Blake J. Harris, and was reportedly working on an adaptation with Goldberg.
Rogen hosted Saturday Night Live for a third time in 2014. That Mate, Rogen starred in Neighbors with Rose Byrne and Zac Efron, which was directed by Nicholas Stoller. In the film, Rogen and Byrne played a couple who come into conflict with a fraternity, led by Efron's character, living next door. The film became Rogen's highest-grossing non-animated film, having grossed over $270 million globally. Rogen and Evan Goldberg co-directed and co-wrote the story to the action comedy The Interview, starring Rogen and James Franco as a pair of journalists who are recruited by the CIA to assassinate North Korean leader Kim Jong-un after setting up an interview with him. In June 2014, North Korea threatened a merciless retaliation on the United States if it did not ban The Interview, labeling the movie an act of war and a wanton act of terror, and Rogen himself a gangster filmmaker. In December, Sony Pictures announced that it was canceling the release of the movie after a cyber attack on the studio, allegedly tied to North Korea and threats made subsequently by Kim Jong-un. As a result of criticism of this decision, Sony subsequently made the film available online and it allowed theatrical release on December 25, 2014, drawing mixed opinions from film critics. Scott Foundas of Variety found the film to be about as funny as a communist food shortage, and just as protracted, while the Daily Telegraph critic Robbie Collin opined that it was a raucous, abrasive, snort-out-loud satire with mischief in its heart and methane in its gut. It grossed $11.3 million in theaters, but had strong online sales and rentals. Also in 2014, Rogen made cameo appearances in the comedy 22 Jump Street as the double of Jonah Hill's character and in James Franco's drama The Sound and the Fury as a telegrapher.
Rogen portrayed Apple Inc. co-founder Steve Wozniak in the Danny Boyle-directed Steve Jobs biopic, from a screenplay by Aaron Sorkin. His performance in the film was widely praised and Rogen was commended for doing an excellent job by Wozniak himself. In November 2015, Rogen starred alongside Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Anthony Mackie in the Christmas-themed comedy The Night Before as three best friends who annually reunite to celebrate Christmas Eve. In 2016, he reprised his voice role in Kung Fu Panda 3 and in the Neighbors sequel Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. Along with Goldberg and Sam Catlin, Rogen developed the television series Preacher for Sony Pictures Television, which premiered on AMC in May 2016. The show is based on the comic book series of the same name created by Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon and follows a small-town preacher named Jesse Custer who possesses a superpower that allows him to command others to do as he says. His last release of 2016 was the animated comedy Sausage Party, which in addition to voicing the lead character Frank, a sausage who tries to escape his fate in a supermarket, he co-wrote and produced. Sausage Party became the most commercially successful R-rated animated film of all time, overtaking South Park, bigger, longer and uncut. Associated Press critic Lindsay Barr wrote of the film, There is no one out there making comedies quite like Rogen and Goldberg. They are putting their definitive stamp on the modern American comedy, one decency-smashing double entendre at a time.
Along with Evan Goldberg, Rogen directed and executive produced the science fiction comedy series Future Man, starring Josh Hutcherson, which premiered on the streaming service Hulu in November 2017. The same year, Rogen and Goldberg also co-directed a short commercial film for Walmart, titled Bananas Town, and Rogen portrayed the script supervisor, Sandy Schler, to the room director and star Tommy Wiseau, in the Franco-directed film The Disaster Artist, based on the book of the same name, which chronicles the making of the 2003 film The Room. Rogen, as the founder of Hilarity for Charity, an organization that raises funds for Alzheimer's research and support, hosts an annual fundraising comedy event named after the organization. The sixth event was broadcast through the streaming service Netflix in April 2018. In July 2018, it was announced that Rogen was to voice public service announcements in his native Vancouver's TransLink transit system and Toronto's Toronto Transit Commission. Rogen co-starred alongside Kristen Bell and Kelsey Grammer as the love interest of Bell's character in the 2018 comedy drama Like Father, directed by Rogen's wife, Lauren Miller. In 2019, Rogen starred opposite Charlize Theron in the romantic comedy Long Shot, as an unemployed journalist who reconnects with his childhood love interest and babysitter, who has become a major political figure.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.